Hi, and welcome to 1VV10 Module Application Security with Mendix. In this lecture, I will first introduce authentication and role-based access control, which are two basic concepts used for securing applications. And then, I will introduce Mendix features that support authentication and role-based access control and demonstrate their configuration in Mendix. Authentication is verifying the identity of a person. In software development, system users and other software and devices that attempt to access a software application needs to be authenticated first. The authentication controls are based on something you know, something you are, and something you have. Passwords are examples of what you know. Fingerprints is an example of what you are, and chip cards or key generators are examples of what you have. The applications use one or combination of these for authenticating their users. Another security concern is about the limitations on who can access what and in what ways, which is also called as authorization. The controls for implementing authorization decisions are called access controls, and the structure for defining such controls is called access control list. Access control list of an application can be defined, for example, in a table that include users as rows, the services and resources of an application as its columns, and the permission level for each user for a specific service or resource can be specified in the corresponding cell. Defining access control for applications with many users or high user turnovers can be a tedious and complex task prone to human errors, which may lead to other security vulnerabilities. One way to deal with this problem is to define controls based on roles, which define common needs for a group of users. Applications with freemium business models like Spotify have roles that match subscription plans. Each role matches millions of users, and the roles limit what users can play or how many times they can skip songs, etc. Roles can be organized as hierarchies such that the roles can be defined as combinations of other roles. Use case diagrams are good input resources for defining roles and role hierarchies. Use case actors indicate who does what, and actor associations and specializations indicate a role hierarchy. For the example here, the actor hierarchy in the diagram answers whether or not a specialist is allowed to check salary information, or to which services the users with physician role should be granted access. In Mendix, the main tool for authentication is the basic username password control. Mendix has built-in support for defining system users with a name and password, associating them to application roles and other functionalities such as changing passwords. Mendix has detailed support for defining and implementing role-based access controls. Here we see the views of the same page of a Mendix application for two system users with different roles. There are two types of roles, user roles and module roles. User roles are assigned to the application users. They are defined by combining module roles at the project level. Module role is a combination of access rights to selected resources of a module. Multiple roles can be defined for each module. Since they are not defined at project level, module roles cannot be directly assigned to application users. In Mendix, there are three modes of project security, and each mode determines the level of security when the application is run. By default, the application security mode is off, which means no controls are activated. The prototype demo mode turns on the authentication and the controls that apply to microflows and pages. In production mode, additional controls for entity permissions are enabled. A complete production-ready application should be run in production mode. It is set to off, all security-related controls and warnings are skipped, and designing and testing the application is faster. For example, you can open a page to test it right after you create it without having to log on, which could be annoying otherwise. Prototype mode allows you and your clients to see the application interface and behavior when users with different roles log on. As soon as you turn prototype or production modes on, in the Errors tab, Mendix will show you a long list of to-do items for project security. You may panic if it's your first development experience, but don't worry. They will be removed from the list in batches as you configure your security settings. From a tasks viewpoint, Mendix security tasks can be mapped to prototype and production modes like this. To meet the prototype level security configuration requirements, you will need to define user and module roles, configure page access, configure microflow access, enable user management, and configure navigation settings. At the production level, you will need to configure entity access for module roles in addition to prototype level tasks. Let me give you further details about these tasks in the coming slides. You will need to complete the security tasks using several configuration windows and resources from the built-in modules. In the figure, you see a map of security configuration items and modules of an application project. Project level settings, such as creating user roles or selecting the security mode, will show when you click the security item in the general project module. For navigation-related security settings, click navigation in the same module. For creating and configuring module roles, click security icons in each module. For user management pages and microflows, you will need to use resources of administration built-in module. When you click and open a module security configuration window, you will see forms for creating module roles and selecting microflows, pages, and entities to associate to a module role. The application user associated to module roles from Project Security Configuration window. When you create a user role with a name, for each module, a module role is created with the same name and associated to the user role by default. Administrator and user are two generic roles for almost all business applications. Administrators typically manage application users' accounts, and users are ordinary users that can manage only their accounts. For example, an administrator can create and delete user accounts, and a user can change the password for her account only. All Mendix applications by default come with these two user roles and associated module roles defined with the same names. The built-in Administrator project module includes pages and microflows for user account management, which are grouped into user or administrator-related submodules. You can add user account management features to your application by using the resources of this module. For example, you can add account overview page to the navigation menu for administrators to create user accounts, or you can add Manage My Account microflow link to the navigation menu for application users to manage their accounts. For an effective use of these features, don't forget to add the administrator and user roles of the built-in system and administrator modules to the user roles you will create. On project navigation settings, you can add menu items from administration built-in module, just as we discussed. You can also set role-based home pages, and a user will see the home page that matches her user role after she logs on. Demo users are demonstrating the selected user roles that exist in your application. You can use demo users to test what your application looks like for each user role, or to demonstrate your application to other people. The demo users are defined in Demo Users tab of the project settings. When the application starts, these roles are created by Mendix. Let's configure a production. We will define two main user roles, one for agents, the other for supervisors. We will give different access rules for each role. We will also add permissions to supervisors for creating and managing agent user accounts. We will also add a third administrator user role that can create and manage all accounts and overview apartments and tenants just like supervisors do. In this simple project, I have a home page, several other pages, and a microflow. Home page contains a data grid for apartments and a data grid for tenants. Tenants page contains a read-only list that shows all the tenants. This will be the home page for estate agents. Tenant new edit page for agents to create tenants. And apartment new edit page for agents to create apartments. Microflow returns the number of empty apartments to rent. Let's run the application and see how our pages look like when the security is off. Since the security is off, we can see all pages and create, edit, delete all entities and call microflows. When the application goes live in a production environment, the users will be supervisors and estate agents. For supervisors and estate agents, different access permissions will apply, and we will create a user role for each. Estate agents will see the pages and perform actions for creating, editing, deleting, listing tenants and apartments, and call the microflow and see the number of vacant apartments. Supervisors will only see an overview of tenants and apartments in the home page. They will be allowed to call the read-only microflow. In addition, supervisors will create and manage the accounts for estate agents. But who will create the accounts for the supervisors? For this, we will extend the default administrator role and the matching mxadmin user that comes with the project. This role will act as a supervisor that can do all things that a supervisor can do and create all accounts including the supervisor accounts. Let's begin our security implementation by turning on the security mode prototype. Here, we can see the default administrator and user roles that come with the Mendix project. These are project level user roles that can be assigned to user accounts. I will keep the administrator user role to function as a supervisor. However, I will delete the user role user and the module roles with the name user that were generated by default, since I've decided not to use them. But before that, let me show you the module roles the administrator user role have by clicking Edit User Role. I can see here that the administrator user role has administration administrator and system administrator module roles, which provides the user role an extensive set of permissions for creating and managing all user accounts. Now I will delete the user role user and create two new user roles, one for estate agent, another for supervisors. I will choose to create and add module roles only for my application module, which has name my first module. User role estate agent has been created. Also, a module role with the same name has been created in my first module and added to user role estate agent. Now I will repeat it for user role supervisor. I will add estate agent role the administrator user module role, which will allow an estate agent to manage her account. As you can see, my first module, estate agent module role, has been already added to this user role by Mendix. Similarly, I will add supervisor role administration administrator and system administrator module roles so that a supervisor can create and manage agent user accounts. As you can see, my first module supervisor module role has already been added to this user role by Mendix while creating the user role. I will add the permission to create estate agent users. I see an error warning here, which says the selected user role user no longer exists. And as the element to use this resource is the demo user. So we have one demo user with this role, which does not exist. So we have to delete it. These error messages simply tell me go configure your module roles. I've already decided to have these two module roles for this module. Now I will configure page access and microflow access rules for both roles. Estate agents will see all pages. Supervisors will only see home page for an overview of tenants and apartments. Users of either roles will be able to run the microflow. Here's another error message that complains the user role no longer exists, but it's used. So this is kind of annoying because we already removed the user role. However, there are some leftover associations between components and roles, so I have to delete them manually. Fortunately, it's just a matter of clicks. Let's now configure the navigation menu for security. I will add the Accounts Overview administrative page to the menu that will be accessible for only users that include Administration Administrator module role in their user roles. This page includes the functionality for all user account management. I will add a menu link to manage my account microflow from Administration module. This microflow allows users with Administration user module role permissions to manage their accounts. I will add a link for all users to sign out. And I will set Tenants page as the homepage for estate agents, such that users with estate agent role will see this page after they log on. We have completed our navigation security configuration. Let's proceed with production level security configurations. I must now configure entity permissions. The error warnings are too many, but they will be fixed once I configure the permissions. I will grant role module estate agent with all entity and attribute permissions for apartment and tenant entities. I will give only read-only permissions to module role supervisor for both entities. The majority of the errors have disappeared. The remaining errors tell me that user role administrator has permission to see the homepage, which shows the entity information in grids. However, we did not associate the administrator user role to any of the roles of the My First module, which has the entities. I will add supervisor module role to user role administrator. Mendix shows no errors. I think we can now test our production level security implementation. We will first log in with the default mxadmin user with password 1. mxadmin has user role administrator by default. Remember, in our security configuration, we extended the administrator user role with supervisor module role permissions. mxadmin can act as a supervisor who can create accounts and do the things supervisors can do. I can see the list of tenants and apartments on the homepage. Observe that all buttons for creating, editing, and deleting the entities are not visible, since Supervisor module role has read-only permissions for these two entities. I can see the user account administration link in the menu. Let's create the user Mary with user role supervisor. I will sign out, log in with Mary, and see what she can do. Mary will see a read-only homepage. And will be able to create and manage user accounts. This is particularly required for creating agents. Mary will now create an agent Smith with user role estate agent. I will log out and sign in as agent Smith. After logon, estate agents see their role-based homepage tenants, which displays the list of all tenants. Users with user role estate agent can perform one of these actions. They can manage their account details, change their passwords, etc. Smith can go to application default homepage, view, edit, create all apartment and tenant object data as designed. Let me also show you how to create demo users. To create them, I first go to Project Security Settings, click Demo Users tab, and then create usernames with appropriate user roles to use in the demonstrations. I will create one demo user for an estate agent and another one for a supervisor. I will rerun the application and demonstrate the user roles without the need for logging on and off to switch from one role to another. I will log in with a valid username and password, and the demo users will be available for me. The demo users will show when you click this button. Let's click a supervisor. When a demo user is selected, the permissions for the selected user role are activated and the user interface is updated accordingly. Let's switch to an agent role and see how the application looks like from an estate agent view. As we have seen, demonstration with demo users is easier and faster. We first learned the concepts of authentication and role-based access control. We learned the application security modes and the security configuration requirements for each mode. We learned what user roles and module roles are and how they relate to each other. And finally, we identified important tasks and built-in resources for implementing security in a Mendix project and executed them in an application. This is the list of other resources I can recommend for learning Mendix security. You can read from security-related pages from Mendix official documentation, and you can search and follow Mendix Academy security-related learning paths and modules. See you in the next 1BV10 module.